Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today, I have a very special guest. This is definitely exciting for me because this individual that I am going to introduce to you in a moment is somebody that from day one, when you talk about love at first sight, you typically talk about boy meets girl type of scenario, but this is a brotherly, sisterly love at first sight. From the very first moment that I met this individual, she was very welcoming, receiving, just an enjoyable person to be around. We have had many deep, intense conversations together. We've prayed together. We've supported and encouraged one another. You couldn't ask for a better friend, a better person in your life. She is what I would call my sister from another mister, and I am just so honored and pleased that she is chosen to be on the show this evening to take some time out to share a little bit about her journey in life and how she's overcome some challenges and some difficult moments with the hopes of inspiring and encouraging others. So without any further delay, let me introduce to you my sister, my very own, one of my very best friends, Miss Kim Davis. Thank you,
Hi,
Kim, for being on the show. How are
thank you
you?
for inviting me, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're gonna have a good time today, and I know
Yeah.
somebody's gonna be blessed by the story that you have to share. So I'm excited for that and for everybody that's listening. So before we jump into the show, I do want, of course, to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about yourself with the audience. So if you would, tell us about yourself, what you do, where you're from, anything that you'd like to share to let the audience get a sampling of who Kim Davis is.
As he introduced me, my name is Kim Davis, and I am from Dallas, born and raised here in Dallas, Texas. I recently, well, not recently retired, but I retired 2 years ago, and that's how I met my brother, Joe. We worked together. I worked for the Department of Treasury for 37 years. So I retired in 2021. I'm married. I have three children, 36-year-old, 33-year-old, and a 24-year-old. They're doing very well in life, and my husband, he still works. So right now, I just feel like I'm not a grandmother. My dad is still living. My mom passed in 1996, but my dad is doing well, and my stepmom. So I feel like God designated this time specifically for me, and I'm blessed to be here and have the time because I've gotten closer with him. I have four brothers, one passed, so I have three living brothers. I'm the only daughter, and I am a little feisty, and it's because of them. But um, I, I I grew up in housing projects. Um, the north side, we call it the original North Dallas before Dallas expanded out further north, where the high income um, individuals live. Now it's considered the lower income area. And as far as my childhood, I really had a good childhood in the housing projects. It was a community of family, of love. And Joe, me and you have talked about how the community help each other and watch out for one another. And, I had a lot of big sisters, as you say, will keep me on a straight and narrow, which I really didn't veer too far off because I had four brothers that kept me straight. So, and a mom, my mom and dad was divorced. He got remarried. My mom got remarried. So my mom was more of the disciplinary in the household, and my stepdad was more of a provider. And my brothers, they had different rules than I did. They can venture out more than I could. I was limited to the front porch, the backyard, or maybe the park if I was practicing cheerleading. I, participated in cheerleading. I played a little basketball growing up, and but some of the challenges, honestly, as a child, in the neighborhood, when in the 80s when the crack epidemic got really popular, a lot of my big sisters fell victim of the drugs, and I was working, going to school, high school, and early release program. I was going to work half a day, leaving high school, going to work half a day. But they would always run across me and see me, and they would pour into me, not to go down the path that they were going, And to this day, those same individuals, I just thank them and I introduced them to my husband, and they were saying she was the good one, and we didn't want her to go down a wrong path as we did. And it was one time I'll never forget this young lady. She was just so sharp. She was like 2 years older than me, and I was getting off work, and I was just, hey, I spoke to her, and she looked at me, and I didn't know at the time that she was doing drugs, but I noticed her attitude was a little different. And she said, "Let me tell you something." And I was like, "Okay." She said, "If somebody offer you drugs, you turn around and you run." She said, "Because it's not good, and it'll have you selling your soul." She said, and I mean that. And you're not going to be the person that you used to be. And she said, if I ever see you where I am, me and you going to have some problems. And I'm like, okay. It stuck worse than what my mom said to me, because, you just had that community pouring into you. And I wouldn't trade my childhood for nothing, because it helped me to be the person that I am today. So I really thank you for allowing me to share that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a couple of things that you pointed out is so it just reminisced with me, or I should say resonated with me about childhood is, of course, one, you talked about the community piece. We talk about that all the time. You and I have had multiple conversations about that, and of course, I've had that conversation with others that are in our age range about how impactful that community aspect of family was about. Where we were in those days and times where you could get disciplined by somebody else's parent, or if you needed something to eat, or if you needed somebody to watch out for you or what have you, there would always be somebody in the neighborhood that sort of fit into that role. And
Mhm.
so and then I think the other thing that resonated with me as well that you said that I immediately went back to was even the people who had quote unquote fallen off, whether it was in drugs or alcohol or things like that. It's so interesting. And I was playing that back in my head. Some of the greatest, if you will, street philosophers, scholars, counselors, if you will, were oftentimes the quote unquote the drunks, the drug addicts, the prostitutes, the
I
bums on
agree.
the street. They would be the ones that would pull you to the side, and it wouldn't be so much that they would be talking off the top of their head. They would acknowledge the fact that they're dealing with some stuff, but even in their condition, they were still concerned about you. Especially if you were that kid
Yeah.
that they knew stood out in terms of they knew that kid was real smart. They knew that kid was a good kid. It would be the drunk. It would be it'd be the drug, addict. It would be the gangbanger. Like, hey, you need to get up out of here. You don't need to be around this.
Yeah.
It was they were still concerned and looking out for you, and it's just wild to think about how could somebody in that condition be of the mindset to do that. But that was a thing
It really
back then.
was.
I mean,
Yeah.
everybody was in the community. It didn't matter
Yeah.
whether you were the president of your company or you were the bum on the street. Everybody had a role in
Yeah.
that community, and
And to
so
add to that, you're absolutely right. It was a lot of, like you said, hands in it. The neighbors that watch you, you think you're getting away with something, and you're not. I'll never forget my brother. Uh, he had a felony notice, and he balled it up and he threw it behind a dumpster. And what we did know was a neighbor, because he knew that he wasn't gonna be able to play basketball if he had that felony notice. So, you
mm,
know, so he went on to the park and practice or whatever. By the time he got home, well, when he got home, my mom was sitting there in the living room with the notice laid out on the table, and it had been raining, and his eyes was bucked. And to this day, rest his soul, we don't know how she got there. But it was a neighbor, saw him
Mm-hmm.
and said something to her, and she got it or whatever. And the good thing about our community, my oldest brother, he's on a committee. Joe We've had our community, the housing projects that we grew up in. We've been having family reunions um, every Juneteenth weekend for 18, no, about 20 years.
Mm.
20 years now, and it has never been one incident. And I think that
Wow.
is such a blessing. And people fly in that have moved out from Houston, as far as Denver, them flew in, to reunite the community because it was that tight. And I just think that's such a blessing. We
That
don't have
is.
that now.
We really don't. We
We
really
really
don't.
don't have that now.
And we didn't even realize, fully appreciate what that felt, what that all meant back then. But of course, in retrospect, as we've gotten older and the years have gone by, you're like, okay, now that makes sense why our parents did what they did and why the neighborhood, community did what it did to rally around people and just be there. And, and sometimes you wish you had more of that these days.
Yes, you
Just
do.
it would make such a big difference in the lives of, particularly in the lives of a lot of young people. So that's good
Yes,
stuff. That's good stuff.
yes.
So as we move along in your journey of life, of course, again, and I have this conversation all the time with people, both on and off the show. There's going to come a point in time you live long enough that you're going to be faced with some challenges, some adversities that hit a little different. Some things that come across our plate, that comes across our path that while we might have been really good or we normally are able to navigate through stuff, every now and then there's a thing or situation or circumstance that hits us in a way that we begin to sometimes question. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this. This is a little bit
Yeah.
more burdensome. This is a little bit more heavy than I'm used to dealing with. I don't know. I don't see a way out. Now we know, of course, the fact that you're here today lets us know that you found a way out. But if you
Yes,
would,
yes.
but if you would, tell us about a time when you faced such a situation that sticks out to you, where you didn't know how you were going to make it through. You didn't know how you were going to overcome this situation, but by the grace of God, you were able to have that breakthrough, to have that overcoming moment. So if you would just kind of walk us through what that situation was like for you.
I can recall I was 32 years old, and in 1996, my mother had fell ill, and I was previously married, to my first husband. And we were going through a divorce, right? So we were separated, and I, was a single mom. And the same year our divorce was final. It was March of '96, and my mom died in October of '96. Sometimes I get emotional about that because there was a very dark time in my life. Um, at my mom's funeral, I'm sitting here. I have all this support, but then I don't see it because that's not what I'm looking at the time. I'm looking at what I've lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm crying, and I do have all this support around me, but I don't see it because all I'm looking at is what I've lost. I'm 32. I'm a new single mom. I'm your only daughter. I need you, is what I was saying. How can God do this to me? You know, my dad was there the best he knew how. Like I said, I had support, but I didn't see the support. And my brothers, one was in the military, two was at the time was incarcerated, and one was really, my oldest brother was really having a hard time with my mom's death. So I just felt like it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really dark place for me. I was in a really, really dark place. And during that time, I had met my now husband. And he was there the best way he could be. And I still could not see the support. So, you know, moving on along, growing through life, not really living, just growing through and just doing the norm, trying to take care of the kids best way I can, but I'm not mentally there, you know. So, 6 months after my mom died, I'm trying to take the kids to the park, you know, because I didn't really want them to be affected by what was going on with me and how I was feeling. And happened to trying to teach my daughter how to skate and end up falling and breaking my ankle.
Mm.
So I'm like, really? I'm like, I can't believe this, you know. Me and my ex, we was okay, but we wasn't. It was just hard for me to talk to him because all the emotions caught up in a divorce situation, you know, but he was there for the kids and everything. And so he came. My husband now was with me when I broke my ankle, and so he got the kids to their grandmother on their father's side, and they spent the night, and then their dad came and got them. You know, so I'm in a hospital now. I'm out for 6 weeks. Had to have a surgery, and I'm sitting up here crying, and I'm like, I don't. What else is there? I'm trying to do the best I can, and you know, whether people say it or not, you know, you can see me as strong or whatever, or, you know, saying, oh, she got it together, whatever. All of us have a struggle. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's mentally. And I was going, you know, I don't have my mom, and I don't know if I could do this. I don't want to do it. And I had suicidal thoughts, you know, because I felt like that was easier for me for the pain that I was going through. But when I had came out of surgery and was discharged from the hospital, and I'm laying up there, and I look over at my kids, and they trying to help me. So my focus started changing, right? My daughter at the time, she was only 5 years old. She trying to fix me breakfast and lunch. She done made a bowl of cereal and a sandwich because she said, so I don't have, you know, I can't get up or whatever, you know, but I laid there. And this where my journey started. I said, okay, God. I said, okay. And I yelled out, you got my attention. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here. I surrender all. You have my attention. So where we go from here? And in my mind, I heard a voice that say, your mom did what she was supposed to do to get you to this point.
Mm.
You need me. She did her part. Now let me finish the journey. Joe, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
So in that moment, and when I surrendered, that's when my spiritual journey started, you know? And he showed me things, and the support that had always been around, I had to see it from his perspective. And I started seeing all the support that I had and that I wasn't alone. So there was the beauty in that, you know, in a dark place to where he was shining light the whole time, and I'm just blocking it. I don't want to see that because I'm looking at my mama. My mama gone. I'm looking at that help that I know. But
Mm-hmm.
he's been the one the whole time. And so my my spiritual journey began, and my focus changed. So that was one of the darkest moments. And sometimes I do get emotional. I was just fighting back just now. But I do get emotional about that because when I reflect back over my life, I just see how good he was to me. You know, my husband now, he got me in my brokenness. During
Mm-hmm.
that time, he saw what I went through, and he said to me, he said, I know you have all your family here and everything. He said, I'm going to fall back. He said, when all of them gone, I'm going to be here.
Mm.
Oh, I never forgot that. And he's still here 20 years later, 28 to be exact, later, and I've always prayed, but not like I pray now. I am a prayer warrior. And you and I have prayed together, and anytime anybody asks me to pray for them, I have no problem praying. And there have been times, how stressful our job was and stuff, that some of my employees come in my office and shut the door and ask me, could I pray for them? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I know that happened with you too. And so I just know I'm a prayer warrior. And at this time, I'm allowing him to use me because I know he specifically designed my life for me. It might not be, people might not understand my life, but it's my life because he have a specific path that he wants me to travel, and I'm ready for the assignment. He's giving me assignments that I didn't want, and me and you
Mm-hmm.
talked about that. And I said, okay, Lord, if this is my assignment, just equip me with the tools so I could do it because this is for your glory. And I don't want them to see me. I want them to see you. I want them to see you through me because it's not about me, it's all about you. I'm here, like you stated earlier, Joe. I'm here because of his grace and I'm here because of his mercy. And every morning I wake up, I thank him. And I'm very grateful.
Absolutely, and that's a powerful testimony that you just shared. I appreciate your transparency in sharing what you've shared in regards to that path, and there's so much to unpack from that because I mean I think back to like you said all that you went through. It was divorce, it was death of your mom, it was even down to breaking of your ankle. And again, when those individual moments take place, we don't necessarily see the real I guess the real insight that we're supposed to draw from that. Like, because like you spoke of, it was like I knew I had support in all those moments, but I still felt like I was alone. I couldn't see that. All I could focus on was what I was losing.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes in life, we whether we intend to or not, sometimes we can lack that spirit of appreciation and
Yes.
gratefulness for what we have. And so when God is wanting to connect with you, he's wanting to be in relationship with you. One of his processes that he puts us through from time to time is sometimes he has to kind of humble us. He has to kind of break us
Yes.
down to a point where we begin to recognize what we should truly be thankful for, what things truly matter.
Yeah.
And so I think about that broken ankle. You know, um, you think if somebody has ever experienced a broken ankle or any broken part that you normally use, it causes you to need somebody to support you, to keep you lifted up, whether it's the cane or somebody or a sling holding your arm or somebody just literally carrying you. It was like God had to break your ankle, so to speak, spiritually and in a figurative way, to make you have to sit still, to make
Yes.
you have to, okay, now that I can't move, now that I can't be all about trying to do everything on my own, now that I don't have anybody that I can just go off and run to, it's just me and God. He had to take your mom, and these stories resonate with me so well because, of course, as you know, and some of my listeners may know, of course, when I lost my mom, it was there was that feeling of you took that away from me. You took her away from me. What am I supposed to do now? That feeling of abandonment, that feeling of being an orphan. That because I never understood what an orphan felt like until I lost my mom. That was the first time that I felt like I ever came close to what
Mhm.
that must feel like. And but you said something that struck me was she took you as far as she did her job. She took you
Yeah.
where she was supposed to take you. And it was the same thing with me. She took me where she was supposed to take me. It was
Yeah.
now time for me to lean into him and quit trying to rely on mom or anybody else for that matter. Lean into me. I'm here. I'm the one that's going to get you not only through these difficult and challenging times, but I'm going to get you through these assignments and these plans that I have for you. And you're going to
Yes.
need me for that. And so sometimes it requires, it's a painful thing, but sometimes he has to take that which is closest to us away for us to have that realization and understanding. Okay, this didn't feel good, but now that I think about it, now that I'm out of my feelings for a moment, now I see where you were going with this. Now I
Yeah.
understand why this had to happen. And that's why I oftentimes tell people, you know, losing my mother was both the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to me, but it was also one of the greatest blessings that ever happened to me because it needed to happen in order for me to open up, you know, other windows of opportunity that God had for me, things that I would have never pursued, things that I would have been continuously fighting against had he not taken her out of the picture. But she had taken me as far as she could go, as she needed to go with me, just like with your mom. It was the same thing. It wasn't to hurt us. It wasn't
No.
to make us miserable or anything like that. The assignment was complete. Now it's time for you to take everything that was shared with you, everything that you learned, everything that you experienced, and now it was time for you to go to that next level. So when I
Yeah.
think about that, it's just so impactful. And then just again, I shared at the very top of the show, I wasn't just saying, what I said to you, I said about you as I was introducing you, just there were just certain elements. Like one of the very first things that I noticed about you when that was one of the first stories you had shared with me about was about breaking your ankle. And my mom also had broken her ankle and actually broke the same ankle, you
Yeah.
know, I've referred to you as like a big sister. So it was like, I needed somebody like you, to be present in my life. I didn't necessarily need another mom, but I needed a big sister.
Yeah.
you know, and
Yes.
a lot of your personality and vibe reminded me of her. So it was almost like in her own way, she was resonating within you and the bond that we were able to develop. So you just never know how God
No.
is positioning you, what He takes you through, who He connects you with, and all the things that you experience in preparation for who you are to connect with, who you are to come alongside of, who you're ultimately going to be assigned to serve in some kind of fashion or form. You talked about being a prayer warrior. You can't be a prayer warrior until you know what it means to go through some stuff that you
Woo.
got to pray about. You know,
Yes,
I
sir.
need to have had to been through some
Yes.
stuff where I had to be on,
Yes.
in that, when they talk about that, like almost not some, I don't want to say the word begging, but like I was on my knees, I was down to the flow. Every essence of emotion and energy was inside of me, kind of praying for my stuff.
Yes.
I had to be broken down to that degree. And again, you have to lose, but you can't think of the loss as in the worldly sense of a loss. I had to suffer loss. I had to experience lack,
Yes.
but then I also had to experience what it meant to lean into God for Him to
Yes.
supply me with whatever I thought I was lacking. Because I really wasn't lacking. It just seemed like I was. Like you said, I had the support. I couldn't see it. He was
Yes.
always there.
Yes.
He was always that support. So we have to be, in order for us to be effective at our highest of levels in terms of encouraging, in terms of prayer life, in terms of coming alongside people, those people, these encouragers of the world, have to go through a breaking down. you know
Yes.
it's a painful process, but it
Yes.
strengthens us, our spiritual core, to the point to where we're able to effectively be able to come alongside other people in their difficult moments, and they look at us and they're in awe and in amazement, like, how do you deal with things, like how do you go through life like nothing seems to bother you, and people don't know the stuff still bothers us too. We just our response to it is just different. We've matured in
Yes.
how we respond to it. We've just said, I'm not going to allow that thing, that situation, that circumstance to consume us to the point to where we just get stuck in a rut. And so
Yes.
when we pray for other people, when we come alongside other people, when we encourage other people, we try to send that same messaging. Don't
Yes.
get stuck. You can still feel what you feel,
Feel.
cry, mad,
Absolutely.
all that stuff.
Absolutely.
God's okay with that. You can have all those
Yes.
emotions. You just don't stay stuck in it.
That's right.
So
I
that's
totally agree.
as I'm just, like I said, unpacking everything that you said, and it just resonates so well, and it just comes full circle, and it explains why we go through what we go through, and that's why you can't even necessarily call your experiences, good or bad. They're just
No,
experiences.
experiences,
You
life
know, they're
experience.
just experiences. They're because
It is.
nothing
I
God has come your
totally
way is going to be bad.
agree. Bad.
It may be hard. It may be you may not always understand it, but it's never quote unquote bad because he's not bad. He's not evil. He's not any of those things. So we have to unlearn calling it. These are my bad times, and these are my no. These are my times. These are my experiences. This is my
And I like to share this with you is
yes, absolutely.
when we was talking about when I told you I'm a prayer warrior and didn't know it. I grew into it. I'm gonna put it like that, because like I said, when I was younger, I prayed, but it wasn't as in depth as it is now. And even more emotional because sometimes I get to praying and the tears get to flowing of gratitude and promises that and promises that I stand that I believe and I'm hopeful for that he promised me certain things and things like that. So I just want to share this real quick. My son, when he had his apartment, he was out on his own. He was 24 and I was ready to co-sign for him. Me and my husband. Okay, let us know when you need us to co-sign. I don't need it. I already signed it. I said, well, do you need no, mom, they ran my credit, everything good. I not ready to pay my deposit. I was like, oh, okay. So, all right. So, okay. So that was a good thing. But, I was taken back because I'm like, okay, I thought I was going to help, whatever. But that was a good thing because he's showing us independent. So he was having a little, trying to figure out his budget, having financial problems and stuff, And I could recall, I said, well, son, I said, what's going on? Oh, nothing. I handled it. I'm like, you sure? Yeah. And I was just curious. So I was like, well, how did you get through? He said, I used to watch you pray.
Mm. Hmm.
He said, and I just prayed on it, mom, and things started working out. Man, I was about to run out his apartment.
I bet you were.
But that's a good example. If they watching you, we need to be careful how we present ourselves with our children because we
Hmm.
don't know what kind of impact we will have on them, and that is beautiful, you
Absolutely.
know. And it made my heart happy when I heard him say that. And my daughter had that same situation. Not it was in a different manner at her job, and she just prayed her way through it. And I'm talking about he was 24, her situation, she was like 26 or 27. Joe, I started in my 30s. So,
Hmm.
that's a blessing. They knew, and that's my prayer for them to let them know I'm here to help, but he'll get them through it. And that's who they need to lean on. But I'm here physically to support and to cheer you on and to get you, to help you through your situation. But he's gonna get you through. So, for to hear your kids say that really makes me feel good. And I just give all the glory to God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what you just said was kind of a repeat of the cycle that you spoke of about what we talked about with your mom. She
Yeah,
she took you as far as where she was supposed to take you. She completed her part of the task. You just gave an example of this of a similar thing. I prepared my kids to get to a point to where when they found themselves in the face of adversity, they didn't have to panic and freak out. They didn't have to come running back home and saying, I don't know what to do. They already had picked up the lesson, which is the lesson that you taught them, whether you realize you had taught them or not, was to pray on it.
yeah,
And in this case, it wasn't that, you sat, they said, I observed you doing, your son said, I observed you doing it. So I just followed your lead. I saw that that's what you did. So I just replicated it. It worked
yeah,
for you. So I figured it should work for me too.
yeah.
So yeah, so that's just a
Exactly what it
testament to who God is. And it's a testament to you as a mother that you've been listening to God, that you've been allowing him to pour into you so that you could be prepared for moments like this, moments that you didn't even know that you were preparing for,
That's
that
right.
all that time when you were laid up with your ankle broke, and you were receiving God, and becoming that, coming into your prayer warrior nature and your way. You
Yeah.
didn't know that one of the assignments that would be forthcoming was that there would be a day when your son or your daughter would be in a challenging situation, and they would remember seeing you or hearing you talk about the power of prayer, and then they would follow suit and do it in their situations and actually see the results of it, that mom just wasn't crazy over there praying and crying, to something that didn't exist, but no, that this was an actual real thing, a real God that you're praying to, and real answering of prayers that was coming out of that. So that's powerful, and we don't, anybody that's listening to the podcast, they don't need, you don't want to miss that.
Yeah.
The importance of what prayer means, and the significance of it, and especially if we're talking about intercessory prayer, you start getting multiple folks involved, and now we creating a whole new dynamic of what is possible and what could come out of, what would otherwise be considered no win situations, all of a sudden become blowout victories, so to speak. So
That's true. That's
absolutely,
so true.
absolutely. So, when you do find yourself faced with adversity, we know, of course, you've made it clear that prayer obviously is a big part of what you do. But
Yeah.
I'm just curious, in addition to prayer, are there other things what other things do you tend to like to do in terms of processing when adversity is on your doorstep? Is, today is a day that this situation is before you. It's another challenge. It's something I got to deal with. What do you like to kind of do that helps you to process through, figuring out how I'm going to get through this particular challenge that's before me?
Not only like you said, prayer. I like to listen to gospel music, and it's mostly contemporary worship.
Hmm.
And what I listen to is the lyrics, because it's like some of the lyrics of those the gospel songs that I listen to is telling me how he gonna see me through things. And one thing I found is that trouble don't last always. It
Hmm.
doesn't. We go through a season, and it doesn't last always. And when I'm feeling weary or anxious about, it's one song by William McDowell. And my husband introduced me to that song. I was listening to it when he lost his brother. So I was listening to the lyrics, and it's like, wrap me in your arms, and wrap me in your arms, and take me to a place where I've never felt. And he said, wrap me in your arms, wrap me in your arms, take me to a place where I never felt. Hold me close. And so those words kind of help me, so it's music, it's gospel music, listening, closing my eyes, kind of meditating, uh, not only prayer, and then I journal.
Hmm.
I like to journal. One of my closest friends I met at the workplace when my mom died. My mom used to give me a diary when I was younger, same difference.
Hmm.
But she said, and I hadn't picked up a diary in forever. And she said, hey, why don't you, when I was sharing with you earlier that I felt like I didn't have nobody, I was alone, I couldn't see the support around me. And she gave me a diary, a journal. And she was like, just write your thoughts down. She said, Kim, it don't have to be a long paragraph. It doesn't have to be, you know, it's just whatever you're feeling at the time. And I said, okay, I can do that. That was 96, and I've been journaling ever since. I have journals all over the house, some of them back here behind me. But um, it helps me. And sometimes I reflect back on those journals and I kind of laugh because I said, ooh, I was a hot mess emotional. But then as it trans, as I grow through the process, I see a big difference in the wording and my expressing myself and what I'm feeling, and so yeah, prayer, gospel music, journaling, and then I took up another one that I just have total quiet and solitude. I think I shared this with you, quilting. And when I'm quilting, I don't think about anything. And sometimes when something is heavy on me, it's like I could hear him talking. I got to get some quiet space, if you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean. It has to be quiet. I don't have a television on. I don't have a radio on. But in that quiet space, I hear him more. And I pray that I hear him more. And I say, just stay in my ear, you know. So those are some of the things that help me. It really is.
That's cool, and I like the fact that your process is very broad in scope. And again, we all we just talked about a few moments ago. We definitely at the top of the list understand the power of prayer,
Mhm.
but sometimes that's difficult for people to embrace, particularly if you're not a believer, if that's not been your lifestyle. Sometimes just hearing, oh, you need to pray on it and everything's gonna be all
Yes.
right. Sometimes that can be, you know, I don't know, a little bit standoffish, if you will. It can be a little bit of a roadblock when you're trying to reach people who may not know Christ like you know Christ, who may not understand the power of prayer. And so we say all that to say there's a multitude of ways that you can hear from God. You obviously can hear from him through prayer. You can hear from him through studying your word. You can hear from him just in expressing your own words and writing in a journal. You can hear from him with just partaking in an activity that is calming and peaceful, like you said, like quilting, or if somebody like is an artist, or somebody else just likes to do music or something like
Yeah.
that. It just helps them to, whatever it does, it helps you to ease your thoughts and ease your mind and clear your head, because that's the key. Can I clear my head? Can I clear my thoughts? So that way nothing is distracting me from hearing from God. And when we talk about hearing from God, we're not necessarily talking about this thunderous voice that comes from the air and, and speaks down from the heavens upon you. Not to say that
Yeah.
that can't happen, but we're
Mm.
saying God has a way to talk to all of us, and
Yes.
it's him. And it's his own unique way and how he communicates with each and every one of us. And when you have that relationship with God, you understand when it's him talking. I mean, and I've even spoken about times where I've been talking to God, talking out loud to myself, feeling like
Yeah.
I started out the conversation like as if I was asking him the question, asking for an answer to a question. But in the midst of me talking, I not only asked the question, but I start saying the answer. And
Yeah.
and 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 before I'm done, I realize, wait a minute, I just answered my own question. you know, that's
Yeah.
God. That's God putting it in. He's helping you to process what you're saying and talking it through. And before you realize, oh, I just said what I needed to know, or I just journaled what I needed to say, what I needed to
Yeah.
figure out. So
That is so true.
or the song, the lyrics that I just listened to, because I picked a certain song, it spoke to me what I needed to hear. It didn't just make me feel good because the beat was nice. It
Yeah.
it said what I needed to hear. So even to
Yeah.
that, like I paid attention to the lyrics. I listened to the words and I applied those to my heart and to my
Yes.
my journey that I'm in, that season that I'm in that moment. So
Yes.
that's
Yes.
great
And one
stuff.
other thing
Hmm.
I forgot,
No, go ahead.
the gym. You know, I've been going to the
Yeah.
gym. So 30 pounds lighter. But yeah, that, because when I go to the gym, honestly, I don't think about nothing. Just what, and sometimes I do be playing my gospel music.
Hmm.
And sometimes I have a playlist where I play workout music. And the other day I was listening to some of your podcasts. So, that's another thing. I love going to the gym.
And the gym is again another way to hear God, because you think about it, when you are in relationship with God and you're following Christ, you what you basically have signed up is you signed up to be in his spiritual army. And so part of you being a soldier means you got to be in shape. And so sometimes you just got to work out some frustrations and things of that nature. So when you're pounding away at that bag or lifting those weights, you're not only releasing that frustration, but you're strengthening yourself mind, body, and soul. So again, you can receive
Yeah.
his message. You can receive his word. Because if I'm not well rested, if I'm out
That.
of shape, if
Mm,
I'm lethargic, I can have all the good intentions in the world to want to hear God and know of God, but I'm not fully alert. But because you're working out, because you are, I know you become more health conscious in terms of your eating habits and things, like
yeah.
all of that stuff matters. It's a whole collective of things that it's not only for you personally, but it opens up the windows for you to receive God from all different
Yeah.
directions, all different angles. And the better we get, and the key word here is the discipline. The more discipline we get in all of those respective areas, the mental, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, the more equipped we're going to be to go to battle,
Yes.
against the forces that are out there, that the enemy, the deceptions and all the other negative things that are out there that are trying to prevent you from completing the assignments that God wants to send you on. Now we
Yeah.
know that that the devil can't stop that, because God's never going to send you out on an assignment that's going to fail. But you still want to make sure that you're armored up, ready to go, ready to fight. Because like I
Yeah.
said, the higher the level, the higher the devil. And
Yeah.
so you got to be
Mhm.
ready for that. You got to be ready to
Yeah.
go to battle. So that's all inclusive in that process. So it's good
Yes. I
stuff. That's good
totally
stuff.
agree.
So Kim, if you had a chance to talk to the younger version of Kim, the Kim that before the Kim before the broken ankle, the Kim, when mom was still around and you were leaning totally into her, the Kim who felt like everything in life was just going your way before it
Mhm.
all got quote unquote taken away from you, snatched from up under your feet. Um, what would you say to her, or to somebody who might be going through or have gone through something similar, and they're struggling and figuring out, how do I navigate moving forward after experiencing certain losses in life? What would be some words of wisdom that you would share with them that you think would be impactful to help them see it from a different perspective that would be of benefit?
Honestly, if I could give words of courage to someone listening, that might be in a dark place, there's always light. And sometimes, as long as there's a little glimpse of light, that light can get brighter. As I stated earlier, trouble don't last always. That's one thing I would tell them. But the process of growing through, I think if we look at it from a different perspective, as I shared earlier, I just couldn't see anything, but my support was there because I was looking at more of what I've lost versus what I'm gaining, you know. And I think, sometimes, as you stated, and I totally agree, um, my mom had completed her assignment, and it was my turn to grow with him, because he have an assignment for me. And so if anybody struggling with that, I just want them to be encouraged to know that trouble do not last always, and there he is always there for you. You just have to tap into the power source. He is such a power source, and he will give you the courage you need to stand and face anything that come your way. He didn't say it would be pretty, and he didn't say it would be easy, but he did say it would be worth it, and it is. And I would encourage anybody today, okay, own your feelings. That's okay. You're going through, you feeling broken, but he can put pieces together. You don't trust nobody, but he's trustworthy. You can't see a way. He's a way maker. You don't know how you're going to get this. He's a provider. You have to tap into your power source. That's how you're going to get it. Trouble do not last always, but we have to stay hopeful. And that's what I would encourage anybody. Just tap into the power source.
All right, there you go. Tap into the power source. You heard it. You heard it straight from Kim, and everything that you said was true. You have to tap in that power source. Again, it's all about perspective. How are we looking at it? We got to get out of ourselves. You know,
Yes,
well, I done lost this, and I don't have that no more. And then
yes,
me. No, we have to get out of me
yes,
and into him.
yes,
And sometimes the trade off. when he sees that we're more into us instead of him, he has to kind of remove some of that me out of us so we can make
Yes.
that connection.
That is so
Um,
true.
you kind of have to break us down and remind us that this is it's not about you.
And
you
one of
know.
the prayers that I often pray is, Lord, empty me of me and fill me more with you, and let your light shine through me so others can see your glory. That's one of my prayers daily.
Exactly. And you don't
Because
and allowing that to happen doesn't mean that you don't have an opportunity to have identity of self. You can still have your
yes,
identity, but
yes,
our identity is to be rooted in Christ.
yes,
That should be the foundational basis of our identity, and then from that, our individual personalities can come out, and who we are and what makes us the people that we are. But the foundation is where, if you're trying to make the foundation and everything be all you, then that's not going to be a very strong foundation, because we only have so much of us in our own strength and our own abilities to offer. When God
that's
is
true.
that foundational basis, now you on solid ground. You got strong roots to stand in. You can do things that you wouldn't be able to otherwise do. You can think and say and function and behave in ways that you wouldn't be able to operate. So it all goes back to that relational connection to him, and that foundational basis being present in order for you to be the best version of you that you
Yeah,
can be. He created us to be the best versions, but
yes, he did.
we can't operate in manners that are contradictory to that. So that's why sometimes it's necessary to break us down a bit. We got to get humbled every now and then. We have to go
Yeah,
through.
yeah,
Sometimes we just have to go through some stuff in order to develop and become stronger and wiser and more equipped to serve, because that's
yeah.
ultimately what we were created to do. So.
That is so true. And also, what you said, the identity of Christ. So, if you see a person and their actions and the way they walk and the humbleness and the kind acts and stuff, you don't have to ask them if they're a Christian.
Mm-mm.
You
It's
don't
gonna be
have to
obvious.
ask them,
Yeah.
and because it shows. That's why I say, empty me of me and fill me more with you, because you're going to illuminate that for me. As far as you, I want them to see that I have Christ in me. I'm not going to walk around and say, oh, yeah, because I'm a Christian, I'm a woman of God. You should be able to see it. Yes.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to say that. You shouldn't have to, Bible beat it people every time you go, figuring like
Yeah.
you got every other word out your mouth is a scripture and all of that, because again, for somebody, especially from somebody on the outside looking into that, they're not going to receive that,
No.
because it's going to come off like as if you're too holy for me. You're too perfect for me or whatever. They should just see a glow, a flow about you, what I call a spiritual swag about you
Yes. I
that just
like that.
resonates when you step in the room, when you open your mouth. It's just like there's just something. There's a vibe about you, and that's
Yes.
what strikes people's curiosity. Like, why are you so happy? Why are you so full of joy? Why are you so? You always just seem to be upbeat, no matter every time I see you. You
Yeah.
know,
I
that's
had a
God's way of
manager.
positioning you to be able to draw people in. So then
Yeah.
now you can share. Well, the reason why I am who I am is because of who He is. And if you want
That
some of
part.
this is what I did to get it. You can
Yes.
have some of that too. You
Yeah.
know. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. What you were gonna say?
No, I was saying where you said, when they ask you, well, how are you like that? I had a manager approach me. I think I shared that with you. She said, "Do you smile all the time?" I said, "It's part of my wardrobe."
Hmm.
Yes, it's part of
Yep.
my wardrobe. You know, that's what he equipped me with. So it's part of my wardrobe, and she like, yeah, cause you always smiling. Okay.
It
I didn't know how, what she wanted me to say or whatever. But yeah, it's part of my wardrobe.
it's what I call in my book when I talk about the 12 steps of building and leveraging a relationship with God. That's the step that I talk about is evolving with God. That's what I mean about that swag,
Yeah,
that vibe that when you walk in, it could be a room that's gloomy and dark and people aren't talking. There's not a lot of energy, but when you walk in, all of a sudden
yeah,
folks just light up because you're lit when you
yeah.
come in, and you're not lit because you're boisterous and loud talking and cloud.
No,
It's just a vibe. It's just a brightness, if you will, that comes about you, that when you enter into spaces and places and you come in contact with people, they could be down in the dumps that day, but when they see you, just something perks up in them. And
Mhm.
that's that God, that's the God in you that's causing that,
Yes.
that gets that jolt, if you will, that lets people know that he's in the place because you're in the place, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's good stuff. That's good stuff. So Kim, before we let you go, I
Okay.
do want to have an opportunity to, of course, celebrate you, love on you, affirm you. If you got anything that you'd like to share, anything exciting that you got coming up or working on or dealing with right now that we can again acknowledge and like I said, and love on you about what you got going on.
Okay. So I will be celebrating my 60th birthday next week, the 25th. And I'm going on a mother daughter's trip. My daughter is taking me on a mother daughter trip for my birthday. I don't know what my husband have planned. So we'll just see about that. And I've been gathering recipes, Joe. You know, we talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about the cookbook. I'm thinking about writing a cookbook, and I want a combination of the food, because our family always gathered with food, food for the soul or whatever. And but I wanted to have encouraging with recipes, scriptures. So I have an idea what I want to call it, and I think it's going to be so fitting for the cookbook. So it's going to be kind of encouraging and recipes to bring the family together. So I'm gonna get with you on that.
All right. All right.
But I have been gathering recipes and some that I've created, So that's one of the things exciting. And my quilting, I'm thinking I might be doing a little quilting. We did a project for a rehabilitation center near our church that we minister to. We did lap quilts for the wheelchair patients.
Mm-hmm.
So I completed four, and I just started quilting in March. So that's exciting, But I think I'm gonna do that on the side and um, create my cookbook. And who knows? I might be back there teaching. I don't know.
All right.
I'll be back
All
to
right.
teach. Yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So of course, we're gonna celebrate the fact that you're approaching the big 6-0. Thank God that He kept you around
Yeah.
um, with all your capacities in place and all that good stuff at the age of coming up on 60, and the fact that you're already retired. So
Yeah.
that's always a great thing to be able to
Yeah.
be retired and not where you stay too long. You're too broke down to enjoy your glory years, if you will.
Yeah.
And so so of course, prayers on that your upcoming trip with your daughter, the mother daughter trip. We celebrating that, and we're just gonna speak that cookbook into existence right now.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
it's a vision, but we're gonna just go ahead and speak that to an
Yeah.
existence. So when you
Yeah.
come, so prayerfully when you come back on the show, we'll be talking about the release of your new cookbook, and
Yes.
we were
Yeah.
talking all exciting things and where to find it and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So so that is awesome. So uh, again, Kim, it has been a pleasure having you on the show today. I mean, of course, we've had countless conversations on various
Yeah.
points and matters and situations. We talk regularly, but never done it in this format. And then now people will get an opportunity to see a little bit kind of insight of some of the things we talk about,
Yeah.
and why friendships like this, brother and sisterhood like this is so important, because you need people
It is.
in your life, like the Kims in the world, who you can talk to and be vulnerable in front of, who will be supportive, who will be encouraging, who will hold you accountable. Will tell you if Joe, you out of order on that one. You know better. Will
And
lift
the
you up when
same
you're
for
feeling down.
you.
Things of
Yeah.
that nature. So it's always good to of course, converse with you as always. But then, like I said, to share a little bit of your journey and share a little bit about, what this looks like, what godly friendships look like,
Yeah.
to the masses, to let people know that these things are possible, even with people of different genders. You can have that kind of bond and connection with each other, and it be genuine, and it be loving, and it be supportive,
Yeah.
and it be uplifting and encouraging and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for your
Thank you
time and
for
for your
having
story. And for
me.
those
Yeah.
who are tuning in, if you've enjoyed what you've heard today here on the Blessings in the Street podcast, of course, please share, please subscribe, please like, please comment, tell others all about it, because this is what we do here on this platform. We're all about the encouraging and the uplifting and the empowering, and it just letting you know that there is, as Kim stated, there is light at the end of the tunnel. That just because you're going through doesn't necessarily mean that that's the end of your story, that you have to wave the right flag, that you have to give up and surrender. If anything, that's your opportunity to lean into God, to formulate that relationship, or if you're already in relationship with Him, to strengthen it even further, understanding that He will be the way to get you through those valley experiences of life. And you can always count on Him. You can always trust in Him, even if you feel like there's nothing else or nobody else in the world to lean on. He's always there for you, nonstop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and He's gonna love you like no other. So with that said, I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, God bless, take care of yourself, and just keep fighting the good fight. I'll see you next time.
All right.